Hello, hello. What's going on, my friends? How we doing today? What's happening? How are we? Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late. I usually try to schedule it to where I'm sure I'll get there, and that's why I do those weird 17, 19, 23, 43, these kind of random times and all that. Um but today I just clicked the 2:15 button over here, and I was like, all right, 2:15 it is. And so I'm a couple minutes late. But good to see you all here. We're here. It's Wednesday. It is Wednesday, my dudes. And here we are. I saw something really cool the other day. Someone sent me a message, by the way. I've been trying not to get myself distracted, AL, by certain things going on. Listen, I'm just going to preface today's live with the present situation that's going on there and say the only right and left wings I'm discussing in this video are the ones at Manchester United: Cunha, Mbumo, Ahmad, and maybe more that we're going to sign, and I'm going to leave it at that. And we're just going to move on because that's all I'm willing to get into, and that's all I'm willing to discuss on my channel. So just going to leave it at the door on that side of it, okay? But yeah, listen, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. We have finally, football is back this weekend. Thank God that club football is back. We've got 1 or 2 more days, and then everything will start to get heated up, and the talk will happen, and anything like that will be going on, okay? And I'm excited. I've got some videos coming to you as well. I recorded one that I'll publish tomorrow morning. I want to talk about some of the wages and turnover and things like that, and I'll kind of show you some of this as well in today's video because I want to cover that, and I want to cover the signings that United are looking at making, because there are some signings United are looking at making. In yesterday's video, I think it was yesterday's live, yesterday, the day before, these international breaks are killing me. My entire daily schedule tends to be how I think through the days is around football, because otherwise the days aren't that important. Work, job, all that, it's not that important in terms of what day it is, whether it's a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But in football, it gets me thinking, so I get confused. The days kind of blend together otherwise. But look, we were just talking the other day, yesterday or before, about the 3 next signings that United want to make. And I was telling you that I see us essentially that there's going to be some kind of wide player, a center mid, and a center back. And there's a few interesting things that are coming up in the news as of now to kind of confirm. And so that's the subject I want to talk about. Obviously, there was a story about Malik Fofana and United potentially trying to make a move for him right at the end of the window to get another attacker. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, we played him, didn't we? In the Europa League, he came on and he was really good. He's a good player, the right kinds of player, I think it's another example, and we'll get to him in a second here, another example of the strong, I think, young profiling and things like that we're aiming for in the way that we're recruiting players. He was dynamic when he came on. I remember caused us all sorts of trouble. He's a really good player, really, really good young player. Now, I kind of wanted to talk through the lineup a little bit and look at why it kind of makes sense as well to sign even potentially another forward, because this is one of the things I was looking at, and unfortunately I'm gonna have to type these names in. But let's fly through these here and look at the squad. Oops, caps lock. And look at why we might need another winger, another forward. Because I was actually thinking a couple of times during the summer rather, that we might actually end up a little bit short on forwards. If you're asking why I'm squinting a little, yes, I usually wear glasses. The screen is just slightly too far for me to see 100% clearly. Some days it's better than others, but I might need to scoot my screens like 1 inch closer and I'll be able to see everything totally fine. But I just hate wearing glasses. I generally don't wear them. It's just mostly I can't see text from far away. But if we look at this, you can see we kind of have a few little holes in the team. A few little little oddities, a few little points where you go, well, maybe we don't have the right player in that position. I'm not particularly sure. When you look through all of this, now we know about the midfield. Let me just finish filling this out and then we'll talk it through. Probably should have done this beforehand. But yeah, this is where there's flexibility in how we buy players and why some of these things are likely to change over the course of the season. Because when you look at it, there's kind of two priorities here. One of the things that United are doing that is smart, in my opinion, even as somebody who really, obviously, you know how much I back Ruben Amorim. You know that right in this present moment today, I can't promise tomorrow. Well, I can promise tomorrow, but I can't promise after another game because you never know what's going to happen. In this moment, I'm convinced he's the right guy and he's going to take us to the promised land. But if he doesn't, one of the things we've not been doing that's really, really important is this is a concern people raised before. We're not buying specialist positions in terms of wingbacks that can't play winger in other systems. It's more like wingers converting to wingbacks than it is wingbacks buying like some specialist kind of wingback. We've avoided doing that over 2 summers already and a January window. And I think that when you look at the names we're seeing, that'll probably continue. Now, that slightly complicates how you want to play, but Ruben Amorim, when he was at Sporting, one of the things that he did is he tend to convert. He would tend to convert a winger to a wingback, and he would use like a fullback as a wingback and a winger as a wingback, and kind of balance it that way. He would have maybe 2 fullbacks. He would have 2 wingbacks, one of each, depending on what he needed in that day and in that game and in that game situation. And he very often changes the game by making substitutions in that position. Jason, good to see you. Welcome back. I feel like I haven't seen you in a few days. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you only caught the end of the last one. Maybe I've been doing them too early, but good to see you. And thank you for that. I don't know if you meant to send a message with your donation, but I appreciate you, my friend. Hopefully we'll be back. I'll see you soon in all the lives and chats after the games and all of that. And say a kind word to me, to your good friend Marinakis. Because, man, Forrest changing Nuno so quickly, that was a little bit of a surprise to me. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But yeah, what really busy the last week? Well, I'm glad to see you back. Good to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. Yes, sorry. Before I get going, please make sure to like, subscribe. Click the like on the video while you're here, though. It's very easy, very, very easy to do, though. Please smash the like button. Help me out here. We're almost through this long international break. I've got a good video coming in the morning to you guys. And yes, and again, thank you to all the members and things. I did publish a little thing yesterday. First published it and the sound was messed up, but the second one was good. So thank you for that, and thank you to everybody supporting the channel. But please do like the video. But yeah, so basically, when you look at what Ruben Amorim has done, what he did at Sporting, and one of his main approaches to changing the game, it was with wingbacks. Well, and a lot of times it was with utilizing wingers as converted wingbacks in different positions. We've obviously seen, kind of his preference is to start a fullback and a wingback moving forward. And then, sometimes he'll change it and put a more defensive player or a more attacking player or all of that. Well, when you look at this team, we were just talking the other day, and I can tell you exactly what the priorities are in the window, which is the midfield. As we know, We are very likely to make another move or an attempt for Baleba. Again, the idea is to hold on and get our top target. The other thing that came up, obviously, again, kind of being confirmed in the last couple of days, is that Saudi are coming back for Bruno Fernandes. Saudi are coming back for Bruno Fernandes, and they are likely to make an attempt at signing. They're likely to make an attempt to sign Bruno Fernandes at the end of the year. Second, apologies. They're likely to do that. So there's a world here where, again, the original plan was in place. The original plan was for Kobbie Mainoo to take over. We signed 2 players into the midfield and all of that. And it seems like 2 midfielders is still what's on the cards in the long term.
Do you think the Bale transfer sounds similar to Liverpool initially wanting VVD in summer of 2017 but got him in January of 2018?
Yes. And I'm so sorry, guys, for all the Liverpool comparisons that I do. But if you weren't, I've got to tell you today, I made a video. About that I'll publish tomorrow that talked about the wages and the rebuild. And Liverpool have such a model. If you were trying to sit and say, what is the ideal model in the Premier League? What is the best example of a team? What is the best example of teams rebuilding properly and becoming competitive properly? In probably all of football, it's Liverpool. It's unbelievably painful to say that, but it is. When you look at certain things, like I'll just give you like a little sneak peek on some of the things I was talking about here. But for example, I was doing a thing on wages, and if you look at Liverpool, the most insane thing about them is that they're always in 4th, 5th, or 6th in wages, even while they were rebuilding their side. 4th, 5th, and 6th in wages constantly. Now, you could say we don't believe it. I was just like, I don't believe there's probably some City off the table types of things. But somehow they manage to, this is probably their biggest spending year ever, which makes me wonder a little bit. But they managed to rebuild so smartly without ever, the biggest thing, they spent money, but the wages they paid were always so realistic. And I'll get to that in a little bit. Because it's crazy. But yes, I do think that there's a very likely we'll make that attempt in summer, in January, and then again in summer to go and get the main players that we want to essentially finish this rebuild, because it's actually quite possible. It's quite possible to do so. It doesn't mean there's not more positions to strengthen, but if I were to look at the team now, I think you go for your main guy in the midfield, and you might have a serious team. You might have a serious team in place. But yeah, look, that's number one. We know that the midfield is a huge thing. Even if the Fofana thing isn't true, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to mention the concepts here, right? You want the midfield. We want to get 1 or 2 midfielders. Then you look at the next positions and you have some center backs, because we have questions about Shaw. Heaven is young. Lissandro is injured and has been for a while. And Maguire is essentially ending his contract. He may end up re-signing for cheaper and be a good option there. But regardless, we're going to need probably at least, you can't bet on all those players working out between Shaw, Heaven, Lissandro, and all that being good enough, especially good enough to move a title. But there's another one. And the next one was the wide areas. But you can see there's a couple of little kind of holes here. And you can fix this in a couple of ways. You could sign 2 wing backs so that you have more options. But you kind of want a wingery one here. And so I was looking at like the other day, like a Semenyo, right? Who I think could play immediately into somewhat of a wing back position. Not every winger can play wing back. Not every winger can play wingback. But if you were to get someone like Fofana, for example, let's say you were to get someone like Malik Fofana here, then I think that's the right one. Then what this means is you don't have to move Ahmad up. You can keep Ahmad always at wingback, in and out of that position. And with 2 signings, boom, you fixed both sides of the coin here, because you can even play Dorgu on this side because he's actually done it quite a lot. The other player, yes. So you mentioned this. I don't know if you're in the Patreon, Jarl, but Bear was mentioning this, and I have a very high rating of his football takes, but also the fact that we've been following Nusa for quite some time. He would also be one hell of an option, and since he's in the Red Bull system, I'm sure Vivell is aware of him. He would be one hell of a good option out there out wide too. He would be a really, really interesting option there. And I can tell you for a fact, United have followed him for some years. So I know they're aware of him. And obviously Vivell will be aware of him now. Would be a really, really interesting option out wide as well. But a couple of signings, like you could sign a wing back and push Ahmad up, or you could sign, but regardless, it's more like sign 2 wingers. Don't sign fullbacks. Sign 2 wingers. And Dorgu, yes, has played on both sides. He can play on the right. He can play on the left. He can do all of that. So there's some interesting options here that all fit within the way we want to move forward. But like a Semenyo and a Fofana, or Semenyo and a Nusa or something like that, these would all be interesting kind of options that would help. I mean, and again, you could imagine a squad where, by end of next summer, it could look something like this, and then you add in another center back here. So it is what it is. There's a really, really interesting plan here moving forward, where with just a few signings, and we may not get all of them instantly. I mean, some of these are depth and things like that. But yeah, this could give us some serious options. I really like the profile. I really like the profiles that I'm seeing. You know what I mean? I really like the profiles of players that we're looking at, positions that we're looking at, and where we seem to be trying to go with this team, with the types of signings. If you go look at players like Fofana, let's compare him if we can. Obviously stats aren't everything. I always will recommend a watch, but one of the top traits of some of these players is their physical traits. They're young, different leagues, different systems for Nusa and for Fofana. So I know that Fofana looks way, way better. Maybe he is. But elite dribblers, elite carriers of the ball, elite, people who do that. I don't think Fofana could be a wingback, mind you. I think he's a bit slight for that. But I think someone like Nusa could. Regardless, the biggest thing, I just love all these getting real ball carriers and real runners and things like that. I'd be happy with any of these, and it would give us more options out wide, up front, different things like that, in different positions across the team. But United are looking, and like I said before, this is the time when we start to build out those big lists. Okay, this is when we build out those big lists, right? So. This time of year, look at the midfield. Look at those 6 names that we've talked about, because it might be for 2 positions. Baleba, there's probably more that will be added, but Baleba, Anderson, all of that. And then go to the wide areas and say, okay, what kind of wingers might we go for? In fact, what kind of wingers might we go for? And take a look at those and say, okay, well, yeah, there's some names kind of lingering around. I don't like to write them all off immediately, but I know we've looked at Nusa. I know that Semenyo was a serious option last year. It's kind of sounded like maybe it was an alternate to Mbumo, but you can't be 100% sure. And then as well, you then take the Fofana rumors, and I start putting these all together and looking into whether there's truth in them, and then adding them to my list. So a month from now, because United are actually preparing ahead of time, because United are actually working ahead of time, we might end up with a month from now a list of 5 wingers we really like, 6 midfielders we really like, 5 center backs we really like and saying, hey, those are the next 3 things we're going to do. But that's it. And that's the direction that we're going for at the moment. And I'm very very excited about that. I think we're doing the right things and moving in the right direction, and we have the right plans for who we want to recruit. And there is a clear plan in place. You know, I've spent most of these last 2 weeks here on these videos talking about where we're going, the whole rebuild and everything like that. And I look at it, and each thing I look into, I feel more and more confident. And I got to tell you, Angry Ekwu, it's ironic you're saying that there's no foresight when all you're talking about is past. When all you're talking about is the past. I think you should step back a second. It is interesting. We get close to the game weeks and the negativity shows up again. You know what I mean? Which is okay. You're welcome to share your opinions. You're welcome to share your opinions on anything. But the fact of the matter is, I think it is you who is lacking on foresight. If you don't see what is happening right now, and look, there's a lot of people who don't. Good friends of mine. You know, I didn't make it to the red carpet on Monday, and I heard it's very negative without me. It's very negative without me. I wonder for a minute, what are people looking for? I don't think people have yet got it. And I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to explain. You know, I'm trying my best to put forward the plan as I've done from day one. And you know what? So far, everything I've said would happen is happening, is it not? Whenever we get results, I can never predict that. Football is not predictable like that. Football is not linear like that. Results and winning and all of that take time. You know, those things take time. Those things can be unusual. Those things can be somewhat, it's not always a straight line to success. But every action that I've said when they came in that they would do, they're doing. Number 1, setting that style. Number 2, picking the manager that they feel can help them to implement that style. Number 3, cleaning house, cutting the wages down, cutting the savings down, getting the money available, you know, and putting it all together, and then getting it in alignment. When you look at what United have done in the past, they're doing it. And again, I'll say it again, as I've said it for so many years. People aren't prepared for a rebuild. And I think people have not realized yet we're in it. This is the rebuild, you guys. This is it. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I've said so many times, people are not prepared for what a rebuild actually looks like because they don't understand just how much impact certain things have. People look and say, you put a good team together and it's going to win. I'll give you an example on a smaller scale. I'll reference American sports for a moment here. And I'll probably have some basketball people who can back me up on this or provide some examples of them for themselves. Okay. I remember when, in Miami, right? In Miami, graph of latent potential. There you go. In Miami, when LeBron, Wade, and Bosh went together into Miami. All right. Now listen, on paper, and this is, you only have 5 players on the court at the same time in a basketball team. And the total is like 11 or 12 players at any point in time. It's players are so influential. So influential. They're so influential in basketball, even more so than anywhere else. Okay. And the time to coordinate takes lower and lower and lower. When they first arrived in Miami, they were not that good. Like that team, they said not 1, not 2. Anyway, they got beat by some other teams that were maybe, you know, put together a little bit better. But like that team took probably 18 months to get really good. When you're talking about having 3 of the best players in the league, when you only have 5 players on the court at one time, and they make up like 40% of the team, and it was all of that. It still took those players about 18 months to get really, really, and I'm talking as good as they should have been. I'm talking living up to their potential, because you're talking about factually, easily, statistically, the best team in basketball at that time from a talent standpoint. And it took them 18 months to actually look that good. They were playing in even one of the weaker conferences, and they made it through in some of that, but it took them a long time to get good. It isn't that easy. A lot of times what's happened here is people have seen things like Liverpool under Klopp. And look, Klopp springboarded it. He springboarded it. The mess at Liverpool wasn't nearly as messy as it was at United. That's the fact of the matter. You may not agree. You may not see it that way. But it's the truth. That Liverpool team was not that messy. I understand there's no relegation in the U.S. I get that. We're not going to be relegated. Don't worry me on that front. But the fact is that Liverpool didn't have the mess that we've had to deal with, first of all. They didn't have the same financial restrictions that we had to deal with. They didn't have the wage problem that we had to deal with. And they'd already started recruiting a lot of people to really set the club up. I would say, when did FSG take over? What year did they actually take over? 2010. Do you realize for a minute here, FSG took over in 2010. When did they bring Klopp in? 2015, 16? It took them 5 fucking years of doing the stuff behind the scenes to start putting it together and get it right. They had 5 years before Klopp came in. So when Klopp came in, they were able to actually do everything right. Things like analytics, a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, all of that was a lot better than what we had at this point in time. They had years to do it. Arsenal, obviously, the more recent example of it, but it was 8th, 5th, and 5th. Now you can say, well, we finished 15th. Who cares? Honestly, who cares? What's the difference between 8th and 15th? Seriously, in your eyes? Like, not to mention that I would say that the 15th was, like, to me, is this huge, like, gaping, like, thing, you know, but like, you know, they went for, yeah, I mean, look, they had Sterling Swart, they had to rebuild, and they had, you know, a lot of teams have gone through this. United fans have never really been through it. Some of them have in the early 90s and such, and I don't try to make the comparisons to Sir Alex and things like that, because I don't think it's fair, and I think football is very different than it was before. But once again, it does take time. We could have the best 11 in football right now, and it would still probably take us 2 to 3 years. You know, it'll still probably take 2 to 3 years to put it together. That's the truth of it. We're in it, and we haven't understood it. We've been faking the rebuild, and I referenced the interview that Rashford gave saying that we never actually started. And I think that's where people are getting burned. They say, "Oh, we've seen it. We've started over, and now we're going to make the same mistake by sticking with a manager when things aren't successful and things like that." No. You don't get it. We never started. This is the first time, factually, the first time we've actually committed. We've actually committed to following through. We have. And you have to bear in mind that how influential managers can be. No, we never rebuilt, MA. That's the thing. We never rebuild. We didn't rebuild. You don't rebuild by buying Casemiro. When did we rebuild? Give me 1 year that actually looked like a rebuild. What is a rebuild? Firstly, what constitutes a rebuild? Look at Arsenal and look at Liverpool for a second, okay? Look at Arsenal and look at Liverpool for a second. When they rebuilt, what did they actually do? Don't just look at it like on the surface you spend money. That's not a rebuild. Look at the ages of the players that they bought. Look at the types of players that they bought. Look at the wages that they gave on offer. And look at what they actually did. 2020, we brought in like Cavani, Ahmad, Pellistri, and Van de Beek. a totally nonsense window, okay? Then the following year, what do? We go out, we get Sancho, Varane, and Ronaldo. What kind of rebuild is that? You know, what kind of rebuild is that? That's insane. Then we go into the next summer, and what do we buy? Casemiro, Eriksen? What the fuck? Antony and Lisandro Martinez. Lisandro Martinez is probably the only sensible transfer in that, and even then we paid $20 million too much because we were funding Ajax, everything. That's not a rebuild. There's 30-year-olds in there. Every year there's people 2 years left in their career on $400,000 a week. What are we doing? It's crazy. Then you go to the next year. The next year, what do? Mason Mount, Onana, and Højlund. In theory, a more sensible window. But then you go and you pay $30 million over market price for Højlund. You buy Mount when he's been injured for an entire year, and you buy Onana because the manager wanted him. There was no rebuild, and that's just transfers. That's just transfers, man. Like, that's just transfers. That's not considering what is an actual rebuild. What about the medical department? What about the fitness department? What about Carrington? What about all that? We haven't touched it. Until now, we haven't touched any of that. In 15 years, it's been left. In 15 years, it's been left. How did we recruit players? That's also part of the rebuild. The culture, the mindset, the attitude within the team. I'll tell you how. All right. And I'm gonna reference, and I say this in my video tomorrow, so you'll see it, okay? Ed Woodward once said when he was talking to Jurgen Klopp, he referenced United as the Disneyland or Disney World, right? All right. In American sports, when they win the Super Bowl, they say, I'm going to Disneyland or I'm going to Disney World. That's like the thing that is said afterwards. It's like a joke, but it's like a running thing that's been going a long time. After you win the Super Bowl, that's where you go to chill, to have fun, to celebrate. Well, Woodward was right. That's what United became. United became the reward for people. You had a good career, you've done well, you get to come to United and live out your dream in retirement. We'll give you double the wages you should get. You don't have to perform. Who gives a shit? And you'll be here forever. Congratulations. You've reached the pearly gates of Manchester United. Good for you. That's how we treated it. People came to United almost like it was a reward on huge wages, huge money, with basically no demand for success, because we're the retirement club. We're where you go after you've won everything. That's what we became. We're their career reward. Not anymore. Not anymore. That's not where we're going. That's not what we're doing now. That's not what we're trying to attempt. The biggest thing in a rebuild, aside from the players, aside from all of that, is what do you tell them? What is the actual goal? Yeah, we've been the country club. What is the actual goal? Yeah, it has impacted some of the youth. You get the idea. Players, they make it to the first team. They think they've made it. No, you fucking haven't. You haven't. I'm sorry, but you haven't. Making it to United is not making it. United must become and must be a platform for players to make it. They're not there because they've made it. It's a platform. You come to United and you show the world why you made it here. You show the world why you're at United. You show the world what you're made of. That's what United is for. You get here and show everybody, not show them before and then come to United. And that's what Liverpool and Arsenal have sold to their players, and that's how they've convinced them, and that's how they've got them to join. They didn't offer them huge money. They said, look, we're going to pay you the normal mid-wages, same as we offered to everybody this summer and last. And they're going to say, look, you come here, and you're going to get the platform at this club to do something special. to become a top player. Not already a top player. You notice they rarely sign players from top clubs already for a reason. Rarely. You know, when you look at most of the players they've signed, Southampton, West Ham, you know what I mean? Like, this is where they're signing players, not already dones. And then you look at ours and you go, what the hell are we doing here, man?
Preach.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. What are we doing? We gave people the reward. We gave people the reward for being here. And you look at the signings that have mostly failed versus the ones that have, to a degree, made it. And it's like Bruno. Bruno was the right type of player to be signed, regardless of whether in the end he's the top level player. But he had the right attitude. Even if you're a critic, like Marcus and others, he had the right attitude. He came to United to become somebody, not because he was already somebody. And he said that himself when he joined. He wanted to come to United to become somebody, and he had that hunger and that fire, you know, to take it and say, you know what? I'm going to get to United and I'm going to make something of myself. Not, I've already made it. I'm at United. I can relax now. One of the few players who did that. One of the few players who saw it that way. Yeah, that Matic rebuild, right? We got one season out of him. CR7. I mean, we never did it. We signed, you know, even was it Joel or Avram even made essentially a statement, did he not? Where he said, well, in Tampa, we signed Tom Brady. And the idea was, like, get someone who's been there. But that's what we tried, and that's why we signed Ronaldo. That's not a rebuild. Because that's a complete misestimation of where United are. These guys genuinely thought that summer that we signed Ronaldo, and we might have fooled ourselves into thinking it. I know I did at one point. They genuinely thought we were ready to just add a couple cream of the crop players and we're ready to win titles. They thought we were. They thought we were ready. They thought we were there. You sign those players when you're already there, not when you're trying to get there. We never rebuilt. That's assuming you're already built. Those are the decorations. Even Pogba. Pogba is a luxury player, and I thought he was one of the best talents around, but he was a luxury player because we didn't build a Pogba team. We signed Pogba to say, oh, here's a star midfielder we'll just chuck in, and they're going to be successful, and they're going to do great. I'd take Pogba now because you could fit him in, but like, that's not today's Pogba, but you know, we there was never any planning. We just assumed the team was going to be built naturally and that it was already done. So we've never done it. Schneiderlin Revo, there you go. We've just never done it. We never have, and people don't know what it looks like because the fact of the matter is sometimes it can get worse before it gets better. Sometimes it can get worse before it gets better. I'm trying to think of the right example to this, but anybody will know it. Like, very often when you're learning something, when you're trying to add a skill to anything you're learning, sometimes it requires unlearning what you learned before. The entire Schmidfield, yeah. And you can be worse during that time because it can feel better. We had this discussion the other day about business and things like this. This happens all the time. This is like a core concept of business. And someone in the comments was understanding it too. Like, some of the things you do to make it, to be okay, that you can say, all right, this is how we're going to do it. This is what we're going to do moving forward. This is it. And we get by like this. Sometimes you have to break those things to really win. But if you get rid of that thing, sometimes it gets worse. sometimes it gets worse because sometimes a lot of things are better than nothing. A lot of things can do better than nothing. That's where we're at as a team. That's where we're at as a team. We have built nothing. We've built nothing. We've not put it together. We've had a team that, again, I mentioned this about the manager and things like that, and people are not quite getting it yet. We do have a team that has played a certain way for so long. And that's why I use Bruno as kind of like my bellwether. You know what I'm saying? And why I'm really curious to see, because I've been hot and very cold and very hot on him in this team. Because I think he's a bit of a bellwether for our rebuild. And because, for example, when I look at like the Fulham game, I look at it and say, old habits. Well, if he's doing the old habits, then a lot of players are stuck in these old habits. If he's doing the right things on the pitch, we play better. But you can see him, because he's one of the best players we have from a talent and ability standpoint. He is, and he's very productive. If he's still stuck in the middle a little bit, we haven't finished. Do you understand that? We'll see what he can do at the end of it. We'll see if he can learn, because either he will learn or he will leave, right? Or he'll leave anyway, because he might. But when I say a bellwether, I say he was here before and he was a big part of the old way of playing, and he's very influential. If he's all in on the new way, whether he stays, whether he leaves, whatever he can do with that in the long term, if he's all in on the new way, then I know the team are getting it. If he's still stuck in the middle, then the team are stuck in the middle. Until I see Bruno doing what he's supposed to, we haven't finished the rebuild. You understand that? And maybe that means Bruno's gone. Maybe that means Bruno leaves. Maybe he can't do it, but then he should leave, or we haven't finished the rebuild. He hasn't finished the rebuild until you see Bruno. Bruno's the bellwether. Whatever way he swings, if he's still doing the old way, then we're not done, man. We're not done. We're still stuck in our old habits. But he's the one you can tell. Maybe the bellwether is the wrong word here, but like, he is to me the indication of bad habits. And that's what makes me mad about him and also praise him at the same time. Like when I rewatched the Burnley game, he was doing the right things, and it's why we won. It's why we won. He did it right. But you can see he's not always doing it right. So, it's like, it's such an interesting dynamic to look at. And it's hard to show people and to get people to understand or see whether or not we are done or in it, or understand why we might struggle. Because you've seen other teams come in and they improve right away. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it's a good question on Bruno, and we'll find out. But you've seen other teams come in right away. And again, you think, well, look, you will use the examples. Well, Klopp got this in his first season, and Arteta did this in his first season, and XYZ did this in his first season. Well, bear in mind for a moment, we haven't actually finished our first season, okay? We just haven't. I get they all came in actually mid-seasons, and maybe they had a more successful start to the season. I don't care. Fact of the matter is that none of them came into the situation we are in now. None of them. None of them came into the situation that Amorim came into. They came in probably 2 years later. When you look at the ownership aspects, there was two things that happened, right? FSG came into Liverpool, and then they started doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff before they got Jurgen Klopp. Why do you think they were able to get him? They were doing a lot of stuff beforehand. Now, they accelerated their squad rebuild under Klopp, but they were able to lay a lot of the things in place behind the scenes that they needed before Klopp joined. Arteta, what's their faces? The the owners, I should know because they live here, but the Arsenal owners, remember they had this split where they didn't really own the full club, and there was a moment when they got the full ownership and things, and they started investing a bit more heavily, the Cronkies, right? They started investing a bit more heavily and setting some things up and redoing things, and that sort of coincided with Arteta coming in, but they'd been there a long time, and they'd started laying in a lot of these foundations, and they were ready, but they went through a lot of the same things. So yeah, I mean, I just don't think that, we're ready. Oh God, what happened? Never mind. Christ, sorry. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted by something. I apologize for that. But yeah, that's all. And I'm struggling to convince people. I don't know what else evidence that I can show people that we are in this rebuild that we are in right now, and what that actually means. I'm not sure people get it yet. It's hard. It's hard to define it, but you know it when you see it, except you don't. In sports, a rebuild is a deliberate multi-year strategy by a team to improve for the future by sacrificing short-term results, often involving trading veterans for young talent, drafting high-potential players, or bringing in new management. This process creates a new roster and culture with expectations of success lowered for the present, but raised for a successful future, leading to a stronger lineup over time. That's the definition of rebuild. If it doesn't describe word for word exactly what United are doing, then I don't know what does. See, the problem is people look at losing Varane, Rashford, Casemiro, players like that in a vacuum as a good thing. And it is. But maybe not for the short term. Just like losing McFred seemed like a good thing, but maybe not for the first few years. Maybe not for any of that. Because it's about sacrificing short-term results, and sometimes those older players that you think are the problem are the reasons that you're actually maintaining some winning. And it takes more time for these younger players to put in place. That is a rebuild. That is a rebuild. Can I please pin it in the chat here? I'm going to send you the definition of a rebuild, okay? It was great. It was great. Oh, it's too long. Too long. Too long. This is AI has actually done a great job with that definition. But yeah, I'll read it to you guys again one more time, okay? In sports, a rebuild is a deliberate, multi-year strategy by a team to improve for the future by sacrificing short-term results, often involving trading veterans for young talent, drafting high-potential players, or bringing in new management. This process creates a new roster and culture with expectations of success lowered for the present, but raised for a successful future, leading to a stronger lineup over time. So when somebody says, but we're not winning games, but our win rate, I say, all right, here we go for the third time. A deliberate multi-year strategy to improve for the future by sacrificing short-term results, often involving trading veterans for young talent, drafting high-potential players, or bringing in new management. This process creates a new roster and culture with expectations of success lowered for the present, but raised for a successful future, leading to a stronger lineup over time. Sometimes it takes repeating things a few times before you really get it. This is what a rebuild is. It doesn't say, well, the limitations on the problem. You know what the problem is? I think that people aren't certain what the floor is for a rebuild. And the problem is, it's like once you've committed, you have to go all in. You have to go all in. If you dump the rebuild in the middle, you're completely screwed. You're completely screwed. You are. I'll give an NBA example here. The whole 76ers trust the process. That didn't work. The reason it actually didn't work in the end is that the league stepped in and said, wait a second. And they kicked out the guy running it. And then the 76ers ended up making a bunch of horrible short-term decisions and kind of abandoned the process that they were supposed to trust, which is quite ironic. But seriously, like I'm open to debating and discussing and maybe explaining it, because for me, it's unbelievably clear. It's so clear. It's so clear. So like crunking, I get it, but don't agree. So in our context, so for you, totally respectfully, of course, why doesn't it apply? What are we doing or not doing that doesn't constitute a rebuild? That's my question. That's my question for you. What is it that we are doing or not doing that doesn't constitute a rebuild? Which aspect of it is not a rebuild for you? And I want to make another example. I want to say something else. We need to see progress, of course. There's no endless timeline here. This is the season. I don't have low standards. I think we need to... I think that we need to see where we're at. And I think that there's not an endless time for this to happen, but it should. Changing the manager doesn't change anything. It doesn't. Because it's not just suddenly fixing the squad that's going to make people pay. And they made a 2028 for a reason. You know what I mean? They made 2028 as a project for a reason. And so again, I asked seriously, respectfully, what is it that we're not doing or we are doing that isn't a rebuild? In what instance are we not lowering the age of the squad, getting rid of veteran and long-term players and talents, reducing costs, and adding more future performance? Which aspect are we not doing? Even standards and saying we're Man United, right? Folk, yeah. We're not. Arsenal are still in a rebuild. They still haven't won it or anything. Well, that's where I say that they've essentially failed. You know what I mean? Because they got through the rebuild and they haven't progressed beyond that step to the next step. They haven't. They haven't progressed to that next step. They have rebuilt successfully. Maintaining the ability to play, to be in... Listen, the Premier League is tough. It's the toughest league in football. And you're up against essentially Man City and things like that, who are the biggest teams from a money standpoint that have done things nobody else can for financially. You know what I mean? To be second in the league for Arsenal is a successful rebuild. The irony of it is we can all clown on them because they're never winning a title, and I don't think that they will, especially under Arteta, because I think he plays way too conservatively and all of that. But they did do a successful rebuild. It was incredibly successful. It was. A rebuild doesn't guarantee success, though. I think we're onto something. We need to see clear signs. Of course, totally, Simon. You can do a rebuild and mess it up. You sure can. You can do a rebuild. You can mess it up. You can go through all this process and come out the other end and it's all fucked up. It's possible. It is possible. I don't think that's the case. Now, I think people are making that judgment because for some reason they're seeing us lose games, but that's not what would constitute a bad rebuild. That's not what would constitute a bad rebuild, because you can always change managers at the end. You understand that? Like, that's the easiest thing to do at the end, change managers. Because it's not a manager-centric rebuild. The easiest thing we can do at the end of all of this is change managers. We can just do that in the future. It doesn't have to be with one manager forever if it doesn't work out. But that isn't the rebuild. That's where people are, I think, too caught up in the past. The rebuild isn't manager-led. We aren't building Ruben Amorim's United. We're rebuilding United. Ruben Amorim is the manager who is presently aligned with our goals in moving it forward. Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate that. Yes, and hello to Millie as well. But yeah, that's the truth of it. We could change managers later, and so what? It's not that hard. You just change managers. You know what I mean? You can. He's not going to ruin the rebuild by being here. That's the part people. That's why I think people don't get the rebuild concept. He's not going to ruin the rebuild. Our success or failure in the rebuild is not determined by whether we win the next few games. That's not what's going to determine the rebuild being successful. The only way that the rebuild can fail is if we abandon our strategy. That's all. You know what I mean? We don't, as long as we don't abandon the strategy. What would be abandoning it? Well, it would be compromising on transfer principles. If we went out and said, all right, we're done. We're ready. Let's go get Rodrigo, 350. Vinicius, let's not say Rodrigo. Vinicius for 100 million, 400K a week. We're ready. We're ready for that. No, we're not. And I don't think it's a good move anyway, but maybe we could do something like that later. I was trying to think if there's a good example, like center back or something, but like imagine if you would, we go and say, all right, we're going to pay 150 million for Saliba and give him 500,000. You might think on the surface that would be a good thing to do today. It's not. We're not ready. We're not ready. You might think on the surface we should just go buy the best player immediately today and get there. We're not. We're not ready. We're not done. We're not done. We have literally no wingers. That looks kind of like a winger. Not bad. Premier League 24-25. Oh, that looks like a winger. Okay. Oh, well, shit. That looks like a winger. That's not bad. You know? League he was in? Serie A? Also a winger. That's kind of wild. I mean, we have at least three. Maybe Cunha's not a winger, but he's at least three. We didn't have that many wingers before. In fact, what were all the wingers we had? When's the last time we had wingers? Can somebody tell me? Who's the last winger that we got? Who's the last winger that we brought in? Who's the last winger before this season that we bought? That's the question I have for you. Who's the last winger? Before Ineos, who's the last winger that we bought? And how many have we bought since 2014? Not that many. We haven't bought wingers like ever. We've had this weird thing. Anthony, Yeah, Sancho, and then we bought Sancho, and it's like, oh, he's not a winger. He's a floating, number 10 or some shit. But Anthony's the last one. We bought one. Maybe Sancho. The biggest flops we've bought, probably our 2 worst purchases. We have not bought a lot of wingers, man. We have not bought a lot of wingers. We've bought like 3 wingers over the last 10 fucking years. So it's not because of Ruben Amorim that we haven't bought wingers. That's for sure. It's definitely not Ruben Amorim that we haven't bought wingers. That's definitely not the situation. We've just not bought a lot of wingers over the years. We used to spend. It was really funny because we used to sit here and go, we've never replaced Ronaldo. We've never replaced Ronaldo. We've been buying 10s and inside forwards for fucking ages, and ages. And then we've been buying guys like that are just we Depay and Martial and things like that. Yeah, like we've been buying, and then when we do buy a winger, we go and that's manager led. Anthony, that's manager led. This isn't manager led. You said literally none, so if you're gonna use the word literally, you should use the word literally. Literally got to mean literally. Literally is literally. We literally have no wingers, and then we have 2 on the same side, then we have 2. But yeah, wingers in general don't really exist. Attacking fullbacks is the new meta. It's been for quite some time now. Marauding, attacking fullbacks in football. Who are wingers anymore? Salah played with 1 winger. Liverpool played with 1 winger for ages. Other than that, they're not really wingers, And Salah's a winger, but that's about it. They just haven't. It's what is a winger anymore? Whose system uses wingers? Pep ended up getting rid of most of his wingers and then randomly got like Doku in and he just kind of does his thing out there on occasion. But like it's kind of just gone. Football goes in circles, but there has not been a lot of like true blue wingers for a long time in football. That's football in general. Yeah, we bought a lot of 10s and stuck them on a wing, like Mata and Kagawa and stuff like that. Very few teams actually play with out-and-out wingers. That's the thing. Yeah, Newcastle maybe, Perisic. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. But no, look, it's like I said, it's all good. Chelsea are collecting them just so they can play a bunch of narrow inside forwards at the same time anyway, which is pretty funny. It's amusing. Yeah. But no, look, it's like I say, I get it. I get where people are at. I understand where people are at. I understand why people maybe, don't always have faith and things like that. That's all fine. I get all of that. But at the same time, I also look at it and I go, this is what we're doing, man. This is what we're doing. And we haven't finished it yet. And hopefully we will. But we haven't yet. And someday we might. And that's what we're going through. We need to see progress. We need to see signs. But we are in the rebuild. We are right in the middle of it. And we are getting there. So I hope we'll see it through. I hope we will I hope we'll follow it all the way to its conclusion. And at the end of it, Ruben's not the right guy. He can just go. But we're still rebuilding the team. Time to take my teeth out and get some sleep. That's good stuff. But yeah, that's it. But yes, look, from what I said, 3 positions, we are looking at wingers, ironically, bringing the subject around full circle. We are looking at wingers. We are looking at wide players and attackers for next season as well. We are looking at that. We are looking through a bunch of people. So, we will. If you go through Man City's transfer since January, it's like they're signing the perfect Amorim team. Well, that would be Hugo Viana, wouldn't it? Yeah, I really like it. I really, really like what we're doing. I don't know where it's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in the end. I don't know where it's going to end up. But it is the first time I can confidently say we're doing the right things in like at least 80% of the area, and 20% of it, we'll see. I hope it works out. I hope it goes well. I hope that the results follow that. And I hope the players get it and everything, but we've got to see this through. We have to see this through. We're on the cusp in the next 12 months of having a fully rebuilt team with everything behind the scenes. And we need to start seeing results. We need to start seeing results, especially, over the next few months. But I'm already ready. It's like we could go to City away. You know what I mean? This weekend. We could go to City away and then what? If we don't win, the rebuild is failing, Amram's failing. Well, why? They're 10 years ahead of us. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, how we perform, what happens, all of that is relevant to the matter. And I hope we win, because if we win, but this is the silly part about it, okay? If we beat City...
Rhodes the cat is at the door again. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Thank you. But look, this is the truth of the matter, right? If we win, it doesn't make the rebuild already successful. If we lose, it doesn't make it a failure. You understand? We're not really expected to win. And I'm trying to leave a level head. Obviously, you do something like you go beat City away, and suddenly it's like people are going to be like, oh, I believe now. And the only... I'll push back against that a little bit, because it's like, that's not why you should believe. It might be a sign that there's good things happening, but we beat City away last season too. We beat City away last season. We can beat City. It's not just a game. Winning or losing against City is not the definition of whether we've succeeded or not. Neither Chelsea. It's a long season. What if we lose to City and Chelsea? What if we lose to them? Right? What if we lose to City and Chelsea, and then we go on to beat Brentford and Sunderland, and we lose to Liverpool, and we beat Brighton and Forest, and we lose to Tottenham, and we beat Everton and Palace and West Ham and Wolves and Bournemouth and Villa, and then we lose to Newcastle, and we beat Wolves and Leeds and Burnley, and then we lose. You know where we'll end up? We'll end up in top 5. We'll end up with progress. Like, even then it doesn't matter. But it's just, anyway, I get it. I hear you. But like I said, I'm looking at it through the definition of a rebuild. I want to see the trend. What is the trend? Are we getting better on average in terms of our performances? Are we getting better on average in terms of the way we're playing week to week? Are we getting more consistent? Is everything getting better and better over time? And there's going to be wins and losses and draws and all of that. And you're going to have to be able to sort through the noise to know what you're looking at. The league position, I don't think will lie. I think the end of the season, the league position is important, but it's not next week, and it's not the week after. It's important, again, to look at it like December, end of the season, all of that. That's when it's important to look at it and say, where are we? Obviously, you can kind of see, if we hit November and we're still in like 15th to 20th and all that, then so be it. But, we'll see. We'll see where we are. It's just too early to make too many judgments on any individual games. I just want to look at the average trend of our performances. Is it getting better? Are they improving? And how do the results follow that? That's the biggest thing. But the results are key to me. And again, at the end of it, I'll make my judgment based on where we finish. But that's the irony of it. I kind of have a higher standard for where I think we'll be at the end of the season. Like I said, I think if we don't get in the top 6, it's probably not good enough from the manager. But I think you should get the entire season. And obviously, if at some point he's not going to do it, you know what I would do? Stick it out. And actually line up a proper summer replacement, because we've done this mess. We've done this noise. Changing manager mid-season doesn't do anything for us. We've done the noise. Changing to a caretaker mid-season doesn't do anything for us. Just get the right person. If you decide he's not the right guy, decide ahead of time, plan it out, and change it in summer if we don't achieve our goals. But at least we'll have built the squad properly, and then you're giving a manager a fair shot at a start of a season in the summer with a window, with all of that, and without all the negativity behind him, which is what they should have done last season, as they had planned to. Replace Ten Hag, bring someone in, and they do not have all of the negativity in there, because you can see how it doesn't help. Imagine for a moment we get to like December and we're still like kind of shaky, and then they do sack Ruben Amorim and they bring someone else in. Now, guess what? Guess what they're going to have to do? They're going to lose a bunch of games this season, and they're going to get into summer, and people are going to go, I'm not convinced about this manager. He lost all these games last year. And we're going to do it again. And we're going to do it again and again and again and again. And it's going to keep happening over and over and over again. And it will never end. And we'll never be done with this. Let it ride out. Let's see what he does. And if you are going to change managers, you do it in summer, correctly, respectably, and when you're ready, so that they're not hung with the sins of the previous manager, which is what has happened to Amorim and is the only reason people are asking for him to be sacked right now. He's got a noose around his neck that has been tied by Erik Ten Hag, who lasted 2 games at Leverkusen. Give me a break. And you're saying, well, last season's all on you with the team that Ten Hag built. Give me a break. That's not fair. Based on this season, with a team he's been able to put together, he wouldn't be in any doubt at all. So anyway, that's it, guys. That's what I have for today. I'll publish a video in the morning. I've got the Trafford Talk with Owen on United View tomorrow. That should be fun. And then I'll probably be live a bit later on as well. And that's it for today. Okay. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Thank you all for this. We're almost made it through the international break. It's almost done. Real football is almost back. Just a few more things to do. Okay. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will catch you on the flippity flop. And make sure to like the stream, subscribe, all of that on the way out. Thank you very much, guys. And thank you for the donations and the support today. Have a good one. Doom 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 doom.